deity is not of Lord Shiva, but of Lord Vishnu. Panagadi, Panakudi, is about 30 miles south of Tirunelveli. Tirunelveli. Formerly, the temple there contained the deity of Lord Ramchandra, but later the devotees of Lord Shiva replaced Lord Ramchandra with the deity of Lord Shiva named Rameshwara or Ramalinga Shiva. Translation once again, if you could kindly repeat. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then visited the holy place named Gajendra Mokshana, where he went to a temple of Lord Vishnu. He then came to Panagadi, a holy place where he saw the deities of Lord Ramchandra and Sita. Thank you. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshuran Militam Yaina Tasmai Shri Guruvei Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastari Bhutle Srimate Bhakti Charu Swami Tinamine Shringda Chetaha Srupaneti Vagninam Cha Rasputam Prabhupadagata Prananaimi Bhakti Charupadam. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastari Bhutle Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschaste Satarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpa Trubhasya Kripa Sindhu Bhayavacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dear Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, seeking your blessings and mercy of all the assembled and unassembled Vaishnavas, so that I can say something meaningful. And we are indeed exceptionally fortunate to have amongst here with us His grace, Jananivas Prabhu. We seek his blessings, guidance, and we are so exceptionally fortunate. Thank you so much for being here with us. Prabhus, this is indeed a very, very lengthy chapter. I have been told or instructed, I would say, to just recite the following two verses as well, even though the purports are there, but they're relatively short. So 9222, Champa Purne Ashi Dekhi Shri Rama Lakshana Shri Vaikunta Ashi Koilo Vishnu Darshana. Later the Lord went to Champtapur, where he saw the deities of Lord Ramchandra and Lakshmana. He then went to Sri Vaikunta and saw the temple of Sri Vishnu there. 223. Malya Parvate Koilo Agastya Vandana Kanyakumari Tahana Koilo Darshana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to Malya Parvata and offered prayers to Agastya Muni. He then visited Kanyakumari, Cape Cameron. So that each of these verses have purports. So the purports to 222, 222. Champapur, sometimes called Chenanagar, Ganar. It is located in the state of Kerala. A temple of Lord Ramchandra and Lakshman is located there, Sri Vaikunta, about 4 miles north of Alvar, Tirana-Gorirai, and 16 miles southeast of Tirunelveli. Is situated on the bank of the Taramparni river. And the purport to 223, The range of mountains in South India, beginning at Kerala and extending to Cape Cameron, is called Malya Parvat. Concerning Agastya, there are four opinions. Prabhupada is saying. One, there is a temple of Agastya Muni in the village of Agastyayampali in the district of Tanjore. Two, there is a temple of Lord Skanda on a hill known as Shivagiri. And this temple is said to have been established by Agastya Muni. Three, some say that the hill near Cape Cameron, known as Pathia, served as Agastya Muni's residence. 4, there is a place known as Agastya Malya, which is a range of hills on both sides of the Tamraparni river. Cape Cameron itself is also known as Kanyakumari. And throughout the CC, Prabhupada mentions that on numerous occasions. Prabhu, it's still Janmashtami for us, but here, you know, there's Lord Ramchandra, there's Gajendra Mox, there's quite a few things here. But for us, it's still, it is indeed Janmashtami. This is the second day of celebration. We continue tomorrow as well. So ideally, I would have thought that we would have continued that theme. However, not so. I only take instructions. So we're on the CC. But I'd like to begin with, I'd like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the devotees who are very much engaged and involved in putting this colossal beast of a festival. I'd like to thank the resident devotees. The resident devotees, some of you naturally here, have to go through a lot during this period. And it begins like a couple of weeks prior to the festivities. Especially the noise. You know, here in the UK, we're very conscious about noise pollution. So as the resident devotees are resting, you know, the volunteers on site, and they're making such a racket, which naturally the devotees have to tolerate, especially if you are situated on top of the stable block. The stable block is over there. It used to be our old kitchen, and we have some resident devotees on top. So, you know, you'd have to go through all of that. Oh, thank you. I get garland. Thank you so much. Beautiful garland. Smells nice as well. Thank you to all the devotees who have participated and continuing to do so. Of course, as the pilgrims come in, you know, thousands upon thousands of cars come into Radha Gokulananda's fields. And back on Thursday, when it was Janmashtami Day, generally we have some 98 volunteers just parking Gokulananda's cars. Unfortunately, on Thursday, due to the schools beginning, and due to it being Thursday, I suppose, we only had 36. So that team was really stretched. And somehow, because I went through the parking and I met everyone, you know, with Keshav Swami. So I became a bit of a celeb. Of course, going around with Keshav Swami, I was exhausted because we went through all the areas. And as soon as we take one foot forward, a personality turns up, pays obeisance, and starts a conversation. And then we take another meter forward and someone else turns up. Oh, can you take a selfie with me? And I'm thinking, well, I'm here. Can someone not take a selfie with me? So Maharaj can continue. But anyway, in the car park, we spent 45 minutes, which was quite a lengthy period of time. Anyway, we had 36 devotees there parking cars, and Prabhu, I've done that service. It's a tough one. It's a real tough one, especially when you're fasting. It's difficult. So as the cars are parked, then, everyone comes in to the festival site. And then, of course, the second service, which is quite a challenge, is getting into the temple room and the temple room team. And I really called them Gokulananda's pandas in there. Because, naturally they have to move on, please move on. So that kind of, mood is there. It's a tough service to do. And some of them have been there for many, many moons. And they're part of the furniture. So, thanking them is always there. Then, of course, third area would be the kitchens. If anyone's experienced Radharani's kitchens, I was there, and it was a tough thing to do, cooking. I was in the kitchen from 1990 to 1997. I shall never forget the experience. For back then, we didn't have all this high-tech machinery where, potatoes can be boiled in like 2 minutes. It was quite a difficult thing. The kitchens were outside, as it were. They're still somewhat outside in that long tent. But, hour upon hour, doing that service is quite a difficult one. It's very demanding physically indeed. And then, of course, you get onto the site where everyone is there preaching away, distributing prasad, selling of prasad, all that is there. So these are the principal areas, and I truly take my hat off and pay a billion obeisances to all the devotees who are engaged in all the service areas. This year we have over 1,200 volunteers, yes, over 1,200, and they're all engaged, especially you see them all running around in all the different areas. And of course, Prabhus, I do get frustrated now and again, because I said to one of the devotees the other day, on Thursday actually, that I know that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, appeared in a prison. But there's all these areas, there's bars everywhere. It feels like a flipping prison. From one area, you can't get into the other area. You've got to go all the way around. And even me, who I am wearing this lanyard, Prabhus, and the red means I have all access to all areas, because I'm an important person. But I tried to get through the main entrance here, and I wanted to get into the VIP area there, but no, I can't do so. Doesn't matter if you got a red one on. So I thought I'd just put this on. And then, Prabhus, if you are engaged in any of the areas, do be merciful unto me. If you see me and I'm rushing through, I generally pretend to rush through. But if you do see me, allow me access. So anyway, I really do felt it was a fortress, wasn't it? Or soon it will be. In about 1 hour and 46 minutes, it will once again be manifested into a fortress. And to get into the palace, of Gokulananda, it's not so easy. But so it may be, because, all the compliances, it's all about compliance, isn't it? And we're inundated with it. So anyway, Prabhus, once again, thank you so very much. This particular chapter of the CC, I got to naturally talk about it. It's the 9th chapter of the Madhya Leela, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's travels to the holy places. It's a very popular chapter, and we've been on it for quite some time. It's a lengthy chapter. And the summary naturally is given to us by none other than the great Thakur Bhaktivedanta. And he's mentioning that after leaving Vidyanagar, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, visited such places of pilgrimage as, and he's listing a whole area, very, very different areas he's listing there. And then, of course, finally, the Lord went to Sri Ranga Kshetra, where he converted a Brahmana named Venkanta Bhatta, who along with his family took up devotional service to Krishna. And of course that reminds me of when the Lord is quite rather militant in converting everyone. He even converts the Pathans, as you may know. The Pathans are the Muslim elite, military force, and they're real Mahashatriyas. And when they encountered the Lord with other devotees who were there, they attempted to capture the devotees, and to convert them. It must have been quite an interesting occasion there. But he converts them. So after leaving Sri Ranga, Gauranga Mahaprabhu reached Rishabh Parvat, where he met Paramananda Puri. Very famous account there, who then later visits and comes to Jagannath Puri, Paramananda Puri. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then proceeded farther, and he went into Setu Banda and various other areas. So the whole description is being given there of the various places, and ultimately it's mentioned the Lord visited almost all the holy places in South India. And he finally returned to Jagannath Puri by taking the same route back up, and after visiting Vidyanagar once again. So all these descriptions are given. He also defeats the Tatyavadis and rescues a devotee by the name of Kala Krishna Das. That was a very intriguing pastime. The very chapter begins by a description given of Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu converted the inhabitants of South India, and these people were as strong as elephants. As strong as elephants. Like sometimes when you encounter a South Indian gentleman, he's quite strong. I remember a number of years back, I was in the van in Wembley, in the industrial estate, and trying to get some deliveries put into the van. And in the past we used to take some very unnecessary risks. The van was like this completely. It's generally 1 ton is the maximum you can get in it, and I had like 4 tons in it. And this South Indian gentleman turned up in his van, and he just put like 10 tons in his van. And I'm thinking, well, if he can put 10 tons in his van, I can put at least 5 in mine. So of course they're strong as elephants. There's description given here. But they were in the clutches. It's mentioned here, the first verse. They were in the clutches of the crocodiles of various philosophies. The clutches of the crocodiles of various philosophies. And such as the Buddhists, the Jains, and Mayavad philosophies. It's mentioned, with his disc of mercy. With his disc of mercy, the Lord delivered them all. He delivered them all by converting them into Vaishnavas. Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. He converted everyone. So what a unique way to begin the chapter, this big chapter of the 9th chapter of the Madhya Leela. Of course, the verse 221 gives us information of Gajendra Moksha. And in the Bhagavatam, that entire pastime is there. Gajendra Moksha, I must say, is one of my favorites in the Bhagavatam. The way the Leela has been given to us, I do feel it's quite sweet. Maharaj Indrajumna, he offends a rishi. Some seemingly offends a rishi, and the rishi naturally curses him. But these curses, as it were, are a blessing in disguise. And of course, he becomes Gajendra, the famous king of the elephants. And for 1,000 years, if you can imagine, Prabhus, for 1,000 years, Maharaj Hoo-Hoo, what a beautiful name, Hoo-Hoo, Maharaj Hoo-Hoo, as the crocodile, is biting onto his foot, his right foot, and is biting on for 1,000 celestial years. And can you imagine being there? Ultimately, Gajendra takes that lotus, the trunk, and it goes up, and he is praying to the Almighty that kindly, release me from this predicament, as it were. Maharaj Huhu, the croc, gains more and more strength as he bites onto the foot. Somehow, because he's in the water, I suppose. He's in the water, so the crocodiles, they become stronger and stronger. And even in Nadia, Navadvip, Nityananda, the Lord Nityananda, he wrestles with crocs which are like 15 to 18 foot long. And Janani Mahaprabhu may have seen some crocodiles in the Ganga. I haven't done so, even though I have been in the Ganga, and I've been fortunate enough to be in the Ganga with His Holiness Janani Mahaprabhu. And we performed many ceremonies there, but I didn't see any crocs. But if you can imagine Maharaj Huhu biting onto the foot of Gajendra, and how then Gajendra then, surrenders. So this is, truly amazing pastime is given there. Of course, throughout these 3 verses, there's many other information given to us, especially geographically, where places are. Anyone not been to South India? Yes, quite a few devotees there. Okay, quite a few devotees. It's, we're Gaudiya Vaishnavas. To us, Mayapur is the most important place. And of course, Jagannath Puri is there. But Mahaprabhu did go around South India, delivered all these individuals, so it'd be nice to go there. But Prabhu's being Janmashtami and the period of Janmashtami, I've got to say something about that naturally, even though I'm not meant to, because in the schedule it's it's not one of the special classes. But I shall do so anyway. I'll try and be a renegade and move away from things. But the nectar of devotion, which is exceptionally dear to us, the Bhagavad Gita naturally is for us the Bible, the Vaishnava Bible. I won't just say the Hindu Bible, but the Vaishnava Bible. That's the Bhagavad Gita. But our manual is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That's like our manual. So, I generally refer to it whenever I have to give class. And in the 39th chapter was very appealing to me because it's entitled Ways of Meeting Krishna. And, the most important thing for everyone, thousands upon thousands of individuals will come through here in the 3 days. I'm not quite sure how many we had on Thursday, but I would imagine something in the region of 16 to 18,000. Now, today and tomorrow, many, many people will come through. And why are they coming? Because they want to meet. They want to meet Gokulananda because it's his birthday. So they want to meet him. So 39th chapter is all about meeting Krishna. And this is in the Nectar of Devotion. I must say I seldom pick it up. I only pick it up when I have to give class. So hint, hint, get me to give class more often. At least I'll pick up the Nectar of Devotion. So whoever's organizing the schedule, bear that in mind, Prabhu. Do be merciful unto me. But this chapter 39th, when Krishna and his devotees meet, the meeting is technically called yoga. To link or link up with the Lord. Such meetings between Krishna and his devotees can be divided into 3 classes, namely perfection, satisfaction, steadiness. When the devotees meet, when the devotee meets with Krishna in great eagerness, now generally when I go in front of Gokulananda, there's very little eagerness. It's a mechanical affair. and Prabhu's it has been for many, many years, unfortunately. But I do not learn. It's a mechanical thing. There's very little eagerness. I guess the eagerness is there when something nice has happened. The eagerness is there. The eagerness not so much there when some turmoil has occurred. When turmoil occurs, and there are many occasions for me, naturally, where I'm perturbed, where my mind is not peaceful, it's in pieces, and I go up to the Lord, but I don't stand there for long. Here it's mentioned, to meet the Lord with great eagerness, that state of meeting is called perfection. That's the second stage. In the Krishna Karnamrita, you may have heard of it, it's Bilba Mangal Thakur's great piece of work. It describes how Krishna meets his devotee with peacock feather on his head and the great Markataka jewel on his chest. I've got my Krishna meets and with ever enchanting smile. Now, when you take a darshan of the Lord's face, it's such a beautiful face, and that smile. And I always tend to think that Gokulananda has the best smile, doesn't he? Better than Landanishwara, better than Parishishwara. He's got the best. And that wonderful, enchanting, ever-enchanting smile, his restless eyes, and his very delicate body. His eyes are restless. The other day, I was sitting in the office upstairs in the Goshala, and we've got the 3D, the picture of Gokulananda, which are being distributed, mass quantity distribution of the pictures of the lordships. And if you do head up towards the exit of the festival, His Grace Pranabandhu Prabhu stands there, and he's distributing all these 3D pictures. And so I was, taking darshan of the picture at an angle, and you see that the lordships, Radha Gokulananda, the eyes, it's like they're going here and there. So it reminded me of this description when I read it. When a devotee meets Krishna after long separation, the meeting is one of satisfaction. So you have perfection, you have satisfaction, and then you've got steadiness. These are the three stages. This is an instant of satisfaction when meeting Krishna after a long separation, when the Dwarkabasis, when they come and they're in touch, in contact with Krishna when he returns. When Krishna leaves Dwarka, and he does that quite frequently because, really he likes to be in Hastinapur. This is what the Dwarkabasis are thinking. Soon as he leaves, they think that, he's off again. He's going to go and see these Pandavas, who seem to be more dear to him than we are. So this is their mood. And of course, Krishna's personal servant, his chauffeur. Krishna has a Maha Rolls Royce. And his chauffeur, he's quite unique. And that chauffeur of the Lord, Deruka, his son is the chauffeur or the charioteer of Pradyumna, because that's Krishna's main son, his first son. So the son of Deruka is the charioteer, the chauffeur of Pradyumna. His grandson, Aniruddha, the Lord has grandson. He has many, 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 many grandsons. But Aniruddha is his chief grandson, and his chauffeur or charioteer is the grandson of Deruka. So it's, it's parampara. Grandson, great-grandson, great-great-grandson, like that goes on. This is how the Yadus operate. And there's one description, his chauffeur, because the Lord, Deruka, is very close to the chauffeur. If you may notice, anyone who has a chauffeur, even the big limousines which are driven in New York City, and the big Rolls Royces and the Bentleys which are driven in London. You know, we have, when our great industrialist, His Grace Aniruddha Prabhu visits, and this is Anil Agrawal. You know, I've known his chauffeur for many years. He's a delightful gentleman, and he'll do absolutely anything for the proprietor, as it were, for the master. And Deruka, the description given is when Krishna wants to quickly get onto his chariot, Deruka would actually kneel right down. He'd like be on his his hands and knees, and the Lord would get on his back, put his right foot on his back, and then leap straight up. And I was thinking to myself, what an incredible position that would be, to be serving the Supreme Master in such a manner. But that's Deruka. So Krishna's personal servant, seeing Krishna at the door of Dwarka, he forgot to offer him respectful obeisances with folded hands, because he's immediately thinking how to get the Lord onto the chariot. This is the mood of when he meets Krishna. So when a devotee is ultimately situated in association with Krishna, the Lord, his position is called steadiness in devotional service. Steadiness. So for like Deruka, you have to imagine, you know, he won't pay obeisance, but immediately he'll think of how to immediately serve the Lord. And it is described here in this chapter, the 39th chapter of the NOD, how Akrura, who was considered by the gopis to be terror personified. When Akrura, the maternal uncle of the Lord, has to come to Vraj, and he has to take Krishna away, and Balaram. If you could imagine what the gopis go through. And here it's mentioned that he is terror personified. Soon as the gopis take darshan of Mama Shri Akrura, the maternal uncle, they're terrified, because he's the one who's going to be taking the Lord away. To the extent that the limousine, the chariot of the Lord, is stopped as the Lord is leaving. And towards the rear, because, you know, thousands upon thousands, no idea how many gopis just surround the chariot of the Lord. And further down is the charioteer of Nanda Baba, the father, and the elderly gopas, because they're assisting Krishna to Mathura. Nanda Baba has to take a lot of goodies to please the great Kamsa. There's tax to be given. So he's thinking, let's do the run, and in that way, you know, we'll bring Krishna back as well. So Akrura is there, and he's on the chariot. Balaram is with him, the Lord, and Krishna. You see that massive painting in Vishaka Prabhu's office upstairs in the temple president office. And you see, it's actually quite a sad sight. And so, you know, the gopis are blocking. Somehow, the Lord departs. He does say, look, I'm going to come back. My foot, he's going to come back. He comes back after many years. He sends others. He sends, you know, Balaram, he sends Uddhava, as we know. But, you know, he doesn't come back. And as the chariot then departs, and then some Herculean personality lands from the sky right in front of the chariot, and he says to the Lord, you can't go. And this is a Herculean Gopa, whose name is Luthra. He has a powerful name. And he says, you can't go. Before you go, we've got to have a picnic. So he brings them both down from the chariot, both Krishna and Balaram. And, you know, the charioteer, the chauffeur, Krura, he's looking at his watch. I got a massive watch here. He's looking at his watch and he's thinking, you know, we're going to get delayed. But both the lords come down, and, you know, naturally they have this picnic, and this Gopa Luthra, he says, look, I've got some goodies. But I know that Mother Yashoda is packed some nice shondesh, some nice sweetmeats, and, can we trade? And so then they have a picnic, and, they have a nice time. And then he says to the Lord, he says, look, listen, I'm going to remain here until you come back. Incidentally, how long are you going for? And the Lord says, well, I'm just going for a couple of days. Not long, don't worry. He's saying not long. But don't stay here. Your mom's going to miss you. Go back. But he says, no, I'm going to stay here. I'll remain fixed. When you come back, then we'll go back into Vraj together. We'll go back home together. And Krishna is saying, no, please, but then eventually he gets onto the chariot and they move on further. And yes, this individual does remain because he wants to meet Krishna once again. And he remains. A year passes, a decade passes, more time passes. And eventually when Krishna does return, I forget exactly how many years, to my mind it's like 20 years after, I can't exactly remember. When Krishna does appear, this personality is situated there in samadhi, as it were. And of course, his identity really is, he's a Gopa of Krishna. But in Ram Leela, because we have to mention something about Lord Ram, because, these verses, somehow, Ram Nomi has appeared in the CC. So in Ram Leela, this Gopa is none other than Hanuman. And he's waiting for the Lord. Of course, Gauranga Mahaprabhu did attempt to convert, Murari Gupta to become a Gaudiya Vaishnava. And we have that Leela. The Leela is very much there. But when ultimately Krishna visits the Pandavas, and he likes to visit the Pandavas. We've got, the description of Krishna coming, to Hastinapur, leaving Hastinapur, going to Dwarka, and then coming back to Hasti. And he continues, he does that journey on numerous occasions. His mind is always with the Pandavas. And when the Pandavas are in exile, it's been 5 years, and Krishna hasn't seen them. 5 years, that's quite a long time, because they're so accustomed to being with the Lord. And it's Janmashtami. After 5 years, Janmashtami, exile. They're in exile. And they're thinking, will the Lord come and visit us? Maharani Draupadi comes and says to Arjuna, do you reckon he's going to turn up? And Arjuna says, yeah, he might come. And he's thinking, how the heck's he going to come? It's his birthday. He's not going to be in the wilderness, is he? In the forest, when he can be, in Dwarka and celebrate his birthday. But he reassures us, yeah, he's going to come. Hour after hour, she's waiting and waiting. Because this is Krishna. Draupadi Maharani is like the female Krishna. Exceptionally attractive. Krishna means attractive. So you can imagine how attractive Krishna is. Absolutely everyone on the planet wanted to be with her. The description given is that she is detectable on a 2-mile radius because of her natural aroma. So if she's 2 miles away, she can be detected. And it's not Chanel 5. It's some incredible aroma. So can you imagine? And naturally, Krishna wants to see her. And she then says, look, hour after hour, she's waiting and waiting. And many, many guests are coming. And there's large quantities of prasadam she distributes from the Akshay Patra. Just like here, the cooking will be for thousands upon thousands of people coming. And it's unlimited. It just carries on and on and on. And everything that is coming out from the Akshay Patra, she's distributing. And eventually, it's like coming up to midnight. And she's been waiting all day, and she has to fast. Now, Thursday was a fasting day. Now tomorrow, Prabhu, is Ekadashi. Okay, today is Janmashtami. You know, we can have a bit of enjoyment. But another fasting day. But, you know, they've made some nice delicacies there. There's nice Ekadashi chat. Do come and see me if you want it. I'll sponsor it for you. Do come and see me tomorrow. So anyway, all these delicacies are there, and she's fasting. She's looking out. It's almost midnight, and she turns to Arjuna. Is he going to come? Arjuna says, no, he may not, you know. I think you better eat. Because, look, you're losing weight. Every day you have to fast, you know, because some person turns up randomly, you know. And as soon as she eats, if she eats, then the pot is empty. Just like I'm sure if the cooks over there in Radharani's kitchen eat, you know, it's generally empty. But if I generally, when I walk down there, all the cooks are having a feast. But the main cooks, you know, when they're cooking there, you know, they can't eat. So she does eat. Prabhu, she eats. And of course, typical Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, Purna Purushottam Swayam Bhagwan Sri Krishna, he damn well turns up, knocks on the door, and he's turning up. And she's just so flabbergasted. And she like looks at Arjuna. He's turned up. What are we going to offer him? She hasn't even had the opportunity to wash her right hand. And he comes straight in. And of course, they're all elated. They're quite, you know, ecstatic in seeing the Lord. And of course, you know, the Lord says, okay, you know, enough with the formalities. I'm hungry. It's my birthday. I've been in this jungle in exile. You've been, you know, I've been searching for you chaps all day long. What's there to eat? And then she says to him, what kind of an hour have you appeared? You expect me to have something in my kitchen? I'm not in a palace. I'm in a hermitage. I'm in a hut. I don't have any much facility. The Lord says, how can you say that, Krishna? How can you say that when you have the Akshay Patra? When unlimited, you know, quantities of bhoga you can manifest in no time. How can you say that? Can you imagine, you know, the cooks over there having no bhoga, no, you know, items to cook? It's going to be a bit weird. They'll send someone like me go and do some shopping. Somehow I'm going to have to, you know, provide in my Luton van, which is now 16 years old. But it's such a wonderful engine it has. The body's falling apart, but it's still going. So the Lord says, how can, you've got the facility. Yes, but, you know, as soon as I eat, that facility has been taken. You'll have to wait until sun rises. But that's going to be his sun's not going to rise so quickly, it's, you know. And what kind of a person are you? You haven't even washed your hands, he says to her. You haven't washed your hands. So he takes this finger of hers and he does something quite unique. Very, very unique. He just forcibly pops that finger in his mouth. Because, you know, there's a little bit of grain there. He sticks it right in his mouth. And she's like so surprised. She just completely just pulls it back. And of course, the Lord doing that is completely satisfied. The Pandavas are kind of looking at the ceiling and they're looking at the floor and they're looking at each other and they're thinking what's going on. She's looking at Arjuna and she's just so kind of somewhat embarrassed. And then she said, why have you done that? Such inappropriate etiquette. And then he gives his explanation. He says, don't worry, there was a purpose behind it. Because outside your doorstep, none other than Durvasa Muni has appeared with his 10,000 followers. And these chaps eat a lot. And they would want to be fed. But by me doing that, by me taking a little of your remnants, he says to her, by doing that, I am satisfied completely, and so is Durvasa Muni. He's satisfied, and so are his followers. And they've just gone off to have a bathing ceremony. They've gone away to get bathed. So they won't return. Of course, Duryodhana had made this arrangement because if, Durvasa appears there on the 11th hour and there's nothing to be, fed to him, nothing to be eaten, then naturally he's going to be upset, and you don't want Durvasa Muni to be upset. So the Lord had his reasoning. And ultimately, Krishna is always thinking how he can meet Srimati Radharani. Because that's who he wants to meet. You all want to meet him, no doubt, and you will, and you generally do, and Gokulananda is right there. And he's thinking, yes, all these pilgrims have come to meet me. It's my important day. I'm going to have a nice decoration on, and all my turbans are going to be beautiful. Jagat Priya Prabhu somewhere here. She's the main dresser. She's right there, right in the middle. She's going to be dressing me nicely, the Lord is thinking. Of course, he wants to meet Srimati Radharani, and, on one particular occasion, it is, incidentally, it's still Janmashtami, so I can still get away with it by sharing a leela or two. But on one occasion, Prabhu's, when Krishna is somewhat wanting to meet the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srimati Radharani. Soon it's going to be Radhasmi. So when he wants to meet her, and in Nandagram, and there's a special visitor who's there, and this is Abhimanyu, the son of Jyotila. He's there. He's come to have a meeting with Nanda Baba about various things. And so Mother Yashoda, he thought, this is a perfect opportunity to prepare a trunk and give that trunk to Radharani. I remember we in Africa, I'm an African, and we in Africa would have these trunks. It was a blue trunk. We had 2-3 metal trunks, and my parents would put things in there, and then of course my dad did export the trunks all the way to London when we moved. I don't quite know what happened to the trunks after many years. But she's preparing this beautiful trunk, and she puts all this jewelry in there, very valuable cloth, very gems, rubies, diamonds, all sorts of wonderful things she's preparing for Srimati Radharani. And along comes the Lord, and he says to her, Mom, what are you doing? And she says, well, I'm preparing this trunk because Abhimanyu's turned up and he's having a meeting with Dad, and I'm going to give this trunk as a gift to Radharani. And of course the Lord says, well, what about my present? What about me and Balaram? Where's our trunks? Where's our box? And she says, well, yours is already done. It's already done. They're in the other chamber. And so Krishna says, well, but this one looks quite nice. It's got very nice things in it. Are you sure mine is as nice as this one? And she says, yes. But then she's distracted because the Lord wants to get inside this trunk. And she's somewhat distracted. Why? Because the Lord makes this arrangement. What he does is he summons 2 blacksmiths, goldsmiths, called Karuna and Taruna. 2 of them, and they come, and he arranges to have a meeting with them and Mother Yashoda to distract her. So then she's distracted, meeting these 2 gentlemen and explaining to them, because she's got a lot of gold and it all has to be made into beautiful jewelry, ultimately for the Lord. So she has, in the meantime, what he does is he removes all this jewelry and all the valuables, or the treasure. He takes his yellow garment off, his chadar as it were, and he then wraps everything up in this, beautiful cloth, and he takes it out and he puts it in his cupboard. Takes it out, puts it in his cupboard. And then he summons one of the gopis, Dhanista. Incidentally, this particular pastime has been given none other than Purushottam Maharaj's book. Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj, he tells such beautiful stories, doesn't he? And this one is from the Chamatkara Chandrika, which is a little booklet written by none other than Vrindavan Das Thakur. Is given this particular pastime. And so Krishna summons Nitambara, no, Dhanista, I'm sorry, Dhanista. And she's a gopi who is the tiffin wali, because she takes tiffin, she takes lunch from Brashana from Jabat, where Radharani is. And on a daily basis, she takes tiffin to the Lord. So she's like the delivery service, the deliverer, the transcendental deliverer. And she does all this. And so he then gives her this whole thing, and he says to her, look, you take this to Radharani. And what the Lord does, he jumps inside the box. And he jumps inside the box, and he locks himself up. And that by that time, this trunk is quite heavy. Krishna's pretty heavy. So along comes Mother Yashoda, presents this gift to Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu then attempts to lift this blinking trunk, and he's trying to lift it, very heavy. He manages to lift it, and he takes it to Jabat, where his house is, and he tells his mother that this has been given to us by Mother Yashoda, and it's very, very valuable. It'll have many, many things. We can actually purchase 1 million cows, because, real wealth means the number of cows we have. The more cows we have, the more richer we are. So he's saying, whatever's in here, we will sell. But in the meantime, we should put this in Radharani's room, in her chambers. So he, with great difficulty, lifts the trunk, and with great difficulty puts it in Srimati Radharani's chambers, and he says to her, make sure no one touches this, make sure no one sees it, no one should open it. So she naturally puts it in, guards it. And of course, after everyone is gone, and when the Ashtashakis are in there, and when Radharani's in there, there's no one else, there's some noise coming from the trunk. Someone's bashing away. And of course, they have to, open the trunk. And she opens the trunk, and Krishna is there. And he's come to meet her. He leaps out of the trunk. He leaps out of this treasure box. And naturally, he's there. And she gets the opportunity to spend time with him. So there are many, many pastimes, and we can go on and on and on, Prabhus, and I'd love to go on and on. The Lord naturally always fulfills the desire of his pure devotee in particular. We know that. And any of the pure devotees, I suppose all the devotees are pure, and anyone who takes the darshan, the desires are fulfilled. But before ending, Prabhus, the time is of the essence, and I'd like to take this opportunity to say something about the 50th, because I may not get the opportunity. Time is going so quickly, isn't it? Soon September will be over. Soon our 1 year will be finishing, and the 50th would have come and gone. So I was contemplating on the 5 decades, and for me, the first decade, which was 73 to 83, I always felt that first decade was establishing the manor. And the second decade, from 83 to 93, I would say it was really saving Bhaktivedanta Manor, saving the manor from closure. It went on forever and ever, and I still recollect that wonderful, beautiful prayer after the morning program, after Mangal Arti, before the Tusi Arti. We would say this prayer, our dear Lordship, Sri Sri Radha Gokulananda, Sri Sri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Sri Sri Gaurnitai, if you so desire, please keep Bhaktivedanta Manor open for your devotees. This was like our prayer. It was like a mantra. And of course, in 1996, when, we were victorious, all of a sudden we stopped saying this. And it was something, because it's built in you. You have to say the mantra. And so it was like something's missing from the morning program. So Prabhu's, that decade, 83, 93, was really saving the manor from closure. And in one sense, it was a very difficult thing. It was something during that time when devotees were in the fifth gear or in the sixth gear. It was like constant. It was a wonderful time to be in during that decade. The third decade, from 93 to 2003, this for me was the new era, the new dawn. Really, from 96, when Dharamarg was built, it was the new era. And from 2003 and to 2013, the manor and its estate and all of us, we experienced rapid growth. I call it the rapid growth period. And especially, after the pandemic, the footfall has tripled. And that's why the dreaded ticketing system turns up, which I loathe. Because now for me, the ticketing system means Mr. X, Y, and Z will text me, oh, can you get me tickets? And I can't say no. So for me, Janmashtami means really look at contingency. My phone is in the secretary's office. I've kept it there because it constantly, ticketing. So anyway, the footfall, and for me, that period, rapid growth was there. And from 2013 to now, 50 years on, I would say for me is well established. Well established. And when we're well established, naturally, there are many critiques. And I love critiques. Because, they always want to tell us what should be done, how it should be done, what's the best way to do things. Oh, it's wonderful, Prabhus. Even though you've been doing things for, several decades. But yes, how should it be done? Please tell us. Because we're novices, we're still... I'm certainly a novice. I don't know how things should be done. I rely upon others. But do guide us. Do guide us. We are, the largest temple. I say we're the largest temple in the universe. So we need a lot of guidance. We're not just a Hindu temple. But yes, do please guide us, and we will take your opinions very, very seriously when it comes to parking cars, which we've been doing for many decades. When it comes to darshan area, the queuing system, we'll take your opinions most validly. But even I have difficulties in changing things. And change is always for the better. But anyway, the decades have been wonderfully progressing. And we've evolved. And Prabhus, I'm thinking what the next 5 decades will be like. I'm thinking in 100 years, the 100th anniversary, how will the devotees celebrate? So some of you devotees have a young enough premises that you're in. You have a young enough body which you're in. Sam was somewhere here, and others are here. So Prabhus, do remember this class in 50 years' time. And do think how things have changed in the 50 years to come. Balaram is there. He has a young body. And do remember how things had been in the first 5 decades. But Prabhus, I must stop here, for I have gone far too much long, and I'm sure you all have everything to do. And of course, there will be nice breakfast. It's not a fasting day today. So I'd like to stop here. Are there any comments, corrections? Gladly accepted. Questions? Vishwambhar Prabhu is here. Ramswarup Prabhu is here as well. And our Jananivas Prabhu. They're all here. Senior devotees here. But is there anything at all? If not, then it's Sarirar Vidyaja. Oh, Mataji, thank you. Oh, yes. When an Indian does this, it means yes. I do all of this business. But, generally when I do this, it's agreement. Yes, absolutely. Prabhus, just contact Rindarika Mataji. We have another devotee as well, Divya. And they're situated in there. Please go and see that painting. It's like, 6 foot length. It's a good 4 foot in height. And it's a wonderful painting of when Krishna's departing. Of course, it is sad. Krishna's face is very sad. But do go and see it. It's beautiful. And if I were you, I'd just sit there for hours upon hours and hours. And if someone tries to remove you, just say, look, I'm going to be sitting here. Don't disturb me. But just do go in there. Periodically, when the room is unlocked, I would just get in there and take a peek at least. But yes, thank you so much, Mataji. Ramswarup Prabhu. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'd like to give a clap to that. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Wonderful suggestion. Sanatana Dharma. Well, what Prabhuji is saying is that, we should really use the word Sanatana Dharma far more as opposed to the Hindu and the... Yeah, well, India is saying India may certainly shortly in the near future be known as Bharat. So it's good timing to then, change the word of the religion, as it were, to Sanatana Dharma. Many individuals do refer as Sanatana Dharma. And of course, that's the main terminology, the appropriate terminology. Bit lengthy, Sanatana Dharma. Bit lengthy. But nevertheless, it should be adopted, indeed. Thank you so much, Ramswarup Prabhu. Wonderful. Prabhus, thank you very, very much. Tantaraj, Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Janmashtami ki. Thank you.